Biggie. That's all I gotta fucking say. What's going on, everybody? It's the Granddad of Granddad, Willie, and you are here again for another edition of CD Case Studies. Today, we're going through the book and talking about one of the most iconic, legendary, probably the greatest of all time, if not one of the greatest of all time, definitely in a lot of people's top 5. This dude has just had so much impact beyond his fucking life and death. I mean, shit. I mean, what more can you say about this dude? He is still a huge fixture in hip hop. He's still being sampled and quoted and just, I mean, everything he did when he was around is just still resonating to this day. And shit, I got nothing more to say, but he's just one of the greatest. And we talking about the one, the only, Notorious B.I.G. R.I.P. So we're gonna go up in the book right here. Talk about a couple of the albums that I got from Biggie. Now, like I said, he's only had a few albums. He actually only dropped one album when he was alive, and the rest of them dropped posthumous. You know the word when you die. I can't never say that word. I never will, goddammit. But we're going to talk about the only 2 physical albums that I own from Biggie, and they're actually on 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. Y'all might not expect that shit, but the first one we're going to talk about is the one that set this shit off. It is the classic debut. If you have not heard of this album and you are a so-called Biggie fan, then you ain't, because this motherfucker set it off. It's the only one he dropped when he was alive. We talking about none other than the one, the only, Ready to Die. Now, this shit dropped in 1994, and this is the album like that just pretty much catapulted Biggie into superstardom. I mean, it's so many just classic cuts on this shit, so many just tracks on here that you... I mean, this album is just a testament to what and how dope this dude was. I mean, but where do I even start? I mean, you got tracks like Juicy, It Was All a Dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine. Then you got Warning, Who the Fuck Is This? Paging me at 5:46 in the morning, crack of dawn and now I'm yawning. Wipe the cold out my eye. See who's this paging me and why. I mean, I can go with quotables on all these goddamn songs on here because it's just fucking dope. But it's also crazy tracks in here. You mean you got Give Me the Loot, you got Suicidal Thoughts, you got One More Chance, you got Big Papa, Everyday Struggle, The What. I mean, like, this whole album just has so many bangers and gems on here and just songs that just like all have just stood the test of time, which is how dope they are. And as far as the production on here, most of it's done by Easy Mo B, a very slept on and legendary producer back in the 90s who I think needs more fucking shine these days. I don't know why we ain't hearing more about Easy Mo B, but this motherfucker had crazy beats. Also had production from Puffy was on here. DJ Premier had some shit on here, as well as some other motherfuckers. But like, yo, all of them came through with some crazy dope sounds for Biggie to rhyme over. And Biggie himself just killed it on here. Like, I mean, there's so many iconic lyrics and verses and just tracks on here. I could spend all day on just this one album, but I'm not. But yo, if you have not heard this album, you are sorely missing out. And the cool thing about this album, there was no features on here except for one, and that was Method Man on The What. And they actually went bar for bar with each other. Method Man held his own, and that was one of the dopest. Just like, it was one of them tracks where you could tell they were just going bar for bar with each other, trying to just see who could outdo one another. And it's dope that Method Man was the only person out of everybody in the entire hip hop world. Method Man was the only person on here, and he held his own and he did his thing. And there's also a very awkward interlude on here called Fuck Me. I think Lil Kim's on there. It's just, I mean, it's legendary too, but like that, to this day, that shit's still awkward as hell for me to listen to. I feel like I'm in the room and I should just be turned around, because like that shit's just, this sounds so damn graphic. But hey, I mean, it's funny as hell. Like, I mean, just listen to it. I'm not gonna spoil it for y'all, but it's some funny shit, but it's also some very uncomfortable shit to listen to, but it's still fucking hilarious as shit. But this album here just has so many memorable qualities to it that if you have not heard this shit, you are missing out on a lyrical standpoint, production standpoint, just a presentation standpoint. And for a debut album, you probably don't get any better than one of these motherfuckers right here, because this shit is just fucking crazy. So definitely check out this album. If you have not heard this album, I don't know how. If you listen to hip hop and you have not heard this album, you fucking up, because you are straight up missing out. Definitely check out Ready to Die. Classic fucking album. So goddamn dope. Next time I'll talk about, y'all, like I said, is on the other end of the spectrum. This is the last one that officially dropped. I mean, I guess it's considered the final chapter, but it's more of a compilation album than anything. But like, I copped this shit in 05, like it's when it dropped, and we talking about none other than the Biggie duets. Like I said, this album is pretty much, like I said, it's considered a compilation album, but it's sort of like was, I guess, to close out the entire just whole era and saga of Biggie. Before that, you had Life After Death, and then you had Born Again, which were 2 posthumous albums that dropped. And then this is sort of like, I guess, the closeout moment where everybody who was affiliated with Biggie just hopped on and they just did remixes and just newer versions of some of his classic songs. They used some verses that he's used before and some unreleased verses and just made new songs. And there's a ton of motherfuckers on this album. I'm not gonna name them all. Look it up. I mean, it's a lot. I'll just name a few names. I mean, there's Obi Trice, Diddy, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Faith, Pac, Nas, The Game. Like, I mean, just look it up. There's a lot of motherfuckers on here, but they all come through and do it in sort of an honor to Biggie himself. And as far as the production on here, you got production from Swiss Beats, Eminem, Havoc, Just Blaze, Scram Jones, DJ Green Lantern, just to name a few. I mean, there's a lot of motherfuckers that was involved with this project. And as far as tracks, there were a lot of dope tracks on here. I mean, you had the Big Live in Jamaica intro. You had It Has Been Said. Spit Your Game was dope. 1970 something. Beef was crazy. I mean, so it was a lot of dope cuts on here, but I don't think, I mean, like, it wasn't as much Biggie on here that I thought I would have got. But I mean, like, the people who came in, they all did a good job. So it's a dope little, like, compilation album that sort of serves as a final big album. But I think, you know, if you go back and listen to, like, Ready to Die, Life After Death, We're Born Again, those are where you'll get the most, like, dope Biggie content. But I think this is just a dope closeout moment that where everybody who was affiliated with Big or just respected him just came out and just to show their respects and their honors in form of this album. And I just think it was just something that was a good testament and produced a pretty good amount of songs, but it wasn't the most amazing thing. But, you know, I enjoyed it for what it was, so definitely check this out if you have not heard. It's a lot of dope cuts on here, a ton of artists on here, like I think every fucking artist that you could possibly think of is on this album, like from a hip hop and an R&B standpoint, but they all come through and just show the proper respect that this man did deserve. But it's still a very dope album in its own respect, so definitely check this shit out as well. But that's gonna do it for today's CDK Studies. Y'all, hope you enjoyed me talking about my favorite projects from Notorious B.I.G. I mean, especially Ready to Die. That's got my number one favorite. But I also like Life After Death. That was the double disc album, and it dropped actually the year that Big was actually murdered. He was supposed to drop that album, and I had the hit song Hypnotized. Also had one of my favorite songs, Kicking the Door. That shit was crazy. And then with Born Again, you got the song Dead Wrong, which is really dope with Eminem. And then, I mean, it's just a whole bunch of other crazy stuff he's dropped. You can also check out his earlier tracks like Party and Bullshit. Also, he's got a dope track with Tupac that Eminem produced for the soundtrack for Tupac Resurrections called Running. That's the dope fucking track. I mean, it's a lot of stuff out there from him that's really just dope that you should definitely check out. But he is and always will be one of the greatest of all time. And if you have not heard his shit, you are slipping. And if you are an MC or a rapper, you have been influenced by him some way, shape, or form, especially if you were about lyrics and just bars and just really putting out great quality content. He has some kind of influence on you, whether you know it or goddamn not. Previous videos on the side, some fucking where you know what I do, as well as my latest single. Check that out, show us some love. And as always, Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud, Instagram. Links in the description below. And subscribe. Button on the screen, button below. CDK Studies twice a week, as well as weekly reviews. Check that shit out. And a gaming channel. And if you're into anything and want your shit spotlighted, info below. And I ain't got nothing more to say. So until next time I take my leave, Granddad, the Notorious B.I.G, the CDK Studies, motherfuckers a legend, R.I.P. And goddamn it, what more can I say? Like shit, like yo, Biggie. I'm out of here.